Ever wonder why your bank account is still stuck? No matter how hard you hustle, feel like you're chasing your tail? Watching neighbors flex new cars or influencers on social media flaunt stacks of cash, promising you'll get rich overnight. All you got to do is follow them, do what they do, and buy their course, or post 30 times a day on TikTok. But what if I told you most of what you see online and peeping your next door neighbor's projected lifestyle is a lie? And that the real path to wealth isn't loud, it isn't flashy, or some TikTok guru's secret course. I'm not here to sell you a dream or a get rich quick scam, but instead, I'm sharing 7 habits of secretly wealthy people, real principles that I live by to earn, build, and keep wealth under the radar. And most people wouldn't guess it by just looking at me. And today, I'll show you how to do the same, so you too can live the life of your dreams. Because the happiest I've ever been was not because of the things that I had or what I bought or just purchased, but instead the assets that I owned, the businesses I built, the revenue I could create and generate, and the comfort of knowing I would never have to live paycheck to paycheck or worry about paying my bills ever again. And number one is having multiple streams of income. This one is really interesting because I saw Alex Hermosi on TikTok this morning, and he was talking about the 7 streams of income that every millionaire must have. And what's most important here is, even ironically, I created a video that had 7 streams of income, and I didn't even realize it at the time. It was just me listing all the different sources of revenue and where they come in. But most importantly is how you create these 7 streams. And it isn't because necessarily always you create them at one point in time. It's because you've created one that produces the lion's share of your revenue, of your income that's going to building your wealth, that you can then proportionately distribute down into multiple other branches, creating thus the 7 or more. Who knows? But I would say that in any particular instance where you can have more money coming in from diverse places, the better. Because granted, yeah, hiccups can happen, speed bumps, and unexpected expenses can pop up. But not just the negative, but the positive can exist as well. And maybe one of them is hitting and firing on all cylinders, but then 2, 3, 4, 5, or even all 7 start paying really well at the same time. And that's when your wealth building machine is going to be running at its optimum efficiency, producing the greatest return on your investments. And literally, you want to talk about making money while you sleep. You're going to sleep like a freaking baby. Number 2 on the list is value over price. Now, price is, you got to think about price from 2 different perspectives. You got the price from the perspective of the buyer or the consumer or the customer. And then you have price from the perspective of the merchant, the retailer, the seller, the whoever's presenting the offer. Now, sometimes in theory, price, the higher the price, the greater the value. But there is definitely a point at which you can reach a level of diminishing returns, and higher price doesn't equal any more value, and in fact could actually equal less. I mean, just think about it from the perspective of vehicles. And I would say that, there are some really, really good vehicle options out there in the $40 to $50, maybe $60,000 range. There are also some really, really nice and highly sought after and desired vehicles that cost upwards of over $100,000 or more. And they may find themselves in less reliable situations, far more costly maintenance, price per miles, and repairs. And what are you really getting for the extra money? And so wealthy people know, and more importantly, how to stay wealthy is it's not about paying the most. It's about getting the most value, not just price. For instance, my wife and I were actually having this conversation just 2 days ago. We were out in the pool, which we won't be doing today because it's raining. But we were out in the pool hanging out with our neighbors, and we were talking about real estate. Another house just listed or will soon list in our neighborhood for sale. And I think that makes 3 for sale currently at this time. But we closed back in February, and yeah, we spent more than we had planned on or really wanted to. But at the same time, I said, I felt as though we were actually getting a value for what we were paying for and not necessarily just paying inflated prices for real estate that just a few years ago was worth half as much. So there's that. It's about value. So some of the easiest ways to have a lot of money and build wealth is to keep a lot of money. And if you can combine the two, value and real estate, well, then we're really getting somewhere. Then we're really cooking on building wealth secretly as, we live in a gated community. So it's not like most people from the outside looking in are really going to know. But even from the insider's perspective, we've got the cheapest house in the most expensive neighborhood. You can't beat that. And here we are at number 3. Number 3 on the list of habits of secretly wealthy people. And they focus on net worth, not income. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they don't care about income, but the focus is not necessarily how much they make, but more importantly, how much they have, keep, and retain. I'm sure you guys may know some people out there that make tremendous amounts of money, high levels of income, yet they always seem to be broke or always seem to kind of just need to make more in order to maintain their lifestyle. And this is because their income has taken over and has superseded net worth, because a growth of net worth means that you'll always have money. And more importantly, your net worth should be working to produce dividends and residuals and passive income streams so that even without an income, you would still be able to live your life and pay your bills and go on about your day. And so the focus is net worth. The focus is not just saying you make more per hour or you made more every year, but saying that because of the money you made, whether it was more or less, you yourself are actually worth more. Your net worth, your personal financial statement continuously increases in value. Your liabilities and your debts continuously decrease to the point of which, you've got basic living life expenses, you've got insurance that you kind of have to pay for. And these are constants that you really can't get out of paying, property taxes and the like. But at the end of the day, you want to see your net worth increase because eventually you'd like to retire, right? And if so, then your income would cease to exist from your employer or from whatever job or business you may be a part of. But it doesn't mean you stop receiving income by way of, again, dividends, residuals, passive income without a salary, without an hourly pay rate, without a W-2 or even a 1099 necessarily from an employer or being contracted. And we talked about this just the other day. And we were actually having this conversation, a buddy of mine, as I mentioned to you yesterday, that I was presented with an opportunity which was a little lofty, but the idea of making an additional $50,000 a month. But somewhere along in this conversation, we got to the point of earning a modest $15,000 more per month. And at a reasonable rate of return, that could be considered to be the same as a residual or dividend from a $4 to $5 million investment portfolio that just continuously pays you in perpetuity over time. Granted, there will be some ups and downs and ebb and flows and peaks and valleys with the changes in the market, but we don't worry. We don't make knee-jerk reactions, and we just stay the course. And so the goal here is to build up a net worth to the point of which it can produce, even at a 3 to 4% return based on market conditions, enough for you to live a comfortable lifestyle. Number 4 on the list is thinking in decades and not months. And that's actually probably a little bit further along in thinking in months rather than weeks, or weeks rather than days, or days rather than hours, because we want to be in this for the long haul, folks. Actually, talked about this not too long ago on a previous video about constantly investing and reinvesting and dollar cost averaging, knowing that the return on investment may not necessarily come immediately that day or the following day, but weeks, months, years down the road. The key is having made the investment and having the time to be patient and wait for the return. That's it. You're not going to plant seeds hoping for a tree to grow and to, bear the fruits of your labor the very next day. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes energy. It takes consistency. And anyone who tells you you can do it overnight or get rich and become a millionaire in 6 months, well, I'm not saying that you can't, but I am saying that the habits, the secrets of the wealthy typically involve long-term, slow build, consistent growth, nothing flashy, nothing exciting, nothing extravagant. And in fact, a lot of the people that I know who build tremendous amounts of wealth, myself included, all come back to a basic, boring business that most people would think nothing of. And it's no different than YouTube. I make a tremendous amount of money making YouTube videos, not on this channel, but on a completely different channel that is not glamorous. It's not flashy. It's not YouTuber status where people are like, oh my God, you're a YouTuber. What's your channel? It's pretty basic. It's pretty boring, but it's consistent and it produces day in and day out. Now, number 5 on the list is avoiding lifestyle inflation, or in fact, better yet, looking poor, which you guys know how I roll, right? We use screenshots for thumbnails, so we want to look poor. And it's not necessarily being poor, it's just not necessarily standing out in a way that makes you look like you're rich. And so you have an option. For instance, you could go buy a lot of different things. And I'm not saying to deprive yourself of some of the desires you may have, but instead of buying the most expensive of everything in the top tier trim, maybe scale it down a notch. Get yourself a Lariat instead of a Platinum or whatever. For instance, even with real estate, this has happened to us numerous times. And a bank mortgage company would say we're pre-approved for a certain amount, but we wouldn't necessarily go out and try to spend every dollar that we were approved for. And it's just a matter of living within your means or maybe even slightly below, but still comfortably. So you're not wasting all your money just trying to keep up with minimum payments. At the end of the day, the goal is really to pay everything off, live debt free, and just sleep like a baby. Even sometimes looking poor actually saves you more money because, people make judgment. They have stereotypical assumptions and, make judgment calls based on how you look or what you drive or what you wear, things you say. And they may not try to charge you more because they don't think you can afford it. And they just want to get whatever money they can get out of you for whatever it may be. Hell, they may even want to give you a handout. But looking poor is a mindset. It's a mentality. And it also helps you in daily life and making purchases and decisions on whether or not you want to shop at Publix or Whole Foods, or if you don't mind going to Kroger or Walmart. It's as simple as that. I guess if we were to add all these up, the big secret here is mindset. That's how the wealthy get wealthy, stay wealthy, and continue to build their net worth. Number 6 may actually be carried over from talking about making investments and long-term. I invest to buy and hold. I'm not looking to jump into too much of the crypto market or meme coins or anything like that, or, any of these volatile spaces that could easily put me in a position of possibly losing money rather than keeping, gaining, and growing my wealth. So the key here is responding and not reacting. And I think that that's what we see happen a lot of times, especially with some of the whims of the market and mainstream media news headlines and just talking to people randomly throughout the day. And this could cause some to react, but the wealthy know the secret. And the secret is to respond, not react. You respond to the market by holding steady, being confident in the choices that you've made because you've made sound decisions in where you wanted to invest and park your money in what vehicle based on its long-term performance and not any other possible fluctuation in between in the interim, let alone when you do see the opportunity to buy at a discount. Well, you respond to the market by buying the dip, by buying more when prices are low. And that's what we do. When others are fearful, we are hungry, we are greedy. I'm buying hamburgers when they're on sale. And in fact, I'm actually doing that right now by responding, by creating more content on this platform that's ultimately going to help to aid and assist in this goal and strategy in business that's building wealth rather than reacting to. And hopefully some of you folks will find value in these conversations and these videos. But at the end of the day, this will help my brand. This will help my bottom line. This will help execute on the goals that I have set out for myself and produce tremendous amounts of revenue in return, granted, maybe over months, maybe over decades, maybe over time, but not so much just right now. But I'm okay with that because we're trying to build wealth. That's it. We know how to do it. We've already done it, and we're just going to keep doing more of it. In the meantime, trying to keep our costs low, our overhead expenses at a minimum. I do not spend money to make YouTube videos. I do not do it. Granted, there are things I may have spent money on that I may end up using in videos or for videos, but it's not specifically buying this for that. Ironically, I just thought about it yesterday. My car channel just got monetized. So the vehicle that I had already purchased, which I did not buy for that purpose of making YouTube videos of, is now a revenue producing asset, if you will, that can put additional money in my bank account, in my pocket. Even if it's just money to cover the expense of gas insurance and a mobile detail once a month, I'm okay with that. And lastly, number 7 on the list is the wealthy automate everything. Automating could be setting up your bills to automatically pay themselves in full every month. Automate could mean putting in processes and bringing in AI to help their businesses run even more efficiently. Automation can also include automatically investing in stocks and in mutual funds and ETFs and other investments that have certain parameters that trigger the buy based on market activity and price points. Automation and investing, especially in stocks that provide dividends on a reoccurring basis, are a huge benefit to the wealthy. And this is just scratching the surface, folks. I'm actually in the process of building out even more automation that simplifies this hybrid structure that I'm beginning right now based on previous test results that have pushed me and pointed me in this direction. And even a conversation I had yesterday that was like an eye-opening awakening of, hey, Kevin, you're missing out on this opportunity. Take advantage of it. And so it's just as simple as that. You identify what works, and what works is what has always worked for those before you and those to come. Then you hone your skills, you hammer down, you lock in, you stay focused, and you build wealth. That's it. It's just that easy. It's just that simple. But remember, the culmination of all 7 secret habits of extremely wealthy people is, it starts up here. It starts with mindset.